Wonderful. Martina, welcome.
Thank you.
It is so nice to have you here. Now, Martina, you are a 6 times kickboxing world champion, a model, a former goodwill ambassador for the Czech government, and you began to learn to kickbox when you were 8 years old.
Yes, that's true.
You also worked with NATO in Jordan, and I know you're a very politically conscious young person as well. So thank you so much for being here with us today to share your story. I think you have a short presentation that you'd like to give to start us off. Brilliant, go ahead.
Thank you. So it's an immense honor for me to sit here and be able to speak to all of you with deep respect, undisguised enthusiasm, and never-ending humility, which should not only accompany us today at such an important event, but throughout our entire lives. It should accompany us no matter which path we take in this world. Being a good person with good values and unbreakable will and iron patience is not an easy task. It takes a lot of courage to not crack and commit yourself to good things. So, that's me. I was, I think, 6 years old, and I was such a little clumsy girl. And my parents didn't like the fact that my schoolmates were bullying me, so they took me to the combat sport classes. There are many reasons which lead to bullying, and the main problem is, I think, that the children are fighting the battles no one knows about. I've been fighting to who I am all of my children's life. And nowadays, I and my brother, we run various projects for young people and children against bullying in the Czech Republic and in the world. And sometimes I have to say that the stories are like sharp arrows that we desperately try to control, but despite our efforts, they bury deep into our hearts. You know, when the innocent eyes of a bullied little girl suddenly look up at you, you have to step in and help, especially when her story bears a strong resemblance to your own. Nowadays, I'm a fighter. I'm 8 times world champion in martial arts, in kickboxing and hand-to-hand fighting as well. Except that I'm only a European woman who competed a black belt in hand-to-hand fighting, which trained special and armed forces around the world. Sometimes I'm a model, I'm a diplomat, I'm an ex-ambassador of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I'm an athlete. I'm the biggest dreamer you can imagine. I am a coach. I keep fighting against violence and support, for example, minorities around the world. All of my projects which I have teaches me what's right. It shows me that there is no point in being a hero in the eyes of the whole world, but only in the eyes of those who need us the most. Be a coach, be a friend of young people and bullied children. It's just like a feeling of trying to act as a light for others when they get lost in the dark along the way. Giving people hope is not easy. It's not an easy thing, especially when the future can be sometimes pretty uncertain and unreachable. But what I think was the most important, indifference should not have a place in this world. We have to fight against it all together, and it's the same like in the case of NATO. Together we can set the rules of the game of future generations and fight for the right values all together. We can create all these moments together and be like one big family with strong roots and give our lives some solid foundation. Sometimes it's not easy, and I know it very well. One has to overcome obstacles and not fall into the traps which they are around. I'm instructor of armed forces, and yes, this girl in the white dresses. I'm very proud that I can cooperate with NATO because, for example, I'm instructor of NATO multinational battle group in Slovakia. Then I'm proud that I be a part, for example, of Castles. It's a special center against fighting against terrorism, the King II Abdullah Special Training Center in Amman, in Jordan. And maybe it sounds like a fairy tale. From the bullied girl, she became a world champion, instructor, and many others. But the life is not easy. And it's like, in my case, because I'm the biggest troublemaker you can imagine. But I think that never giving up is the attitude that we should carry and live with no matter what the situation is. So what happened to me? I had very bad, very serious accident, and the doctor said that I will not move anymore. So I had to fight, and I'm happy that I can be here today to share my story, that I can jump and I can fight. So I'm very proud of it. So maybe I carry a message for you. So when you see an obstacle approaching, grab your courage and fast up. Because never give up is the most important thing in life. I am very happy that I can be here today and share my personal story. Thank you.
Wow, that is an incredible story, Martina, and very inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of us here in the room and online. You gave a piece of advice there at the end to all of us about never giving up. I'm wondering what additional advice you might give to young people who are facing similar problems or challenges to the ones that you faced.
Yes. So firstly, I think that combat sports or any other sports help a lot. A person learns to not to give up easily and to chase after their goals. That helps them to be even more focused. Nothing knocks them down easily, and they continue to fight despite the fact that the things are hard, even if there are obstacles on the way. Because, how I said, a strong will is the most important thing in life. And I think that it's also about pushing one's limit internally and rising above different circumstances. Because bullying is not going away on its own, and we have to stand up and fight against that. If we don't react to nothing, we lose. That's it. That's the point. But for long as I know, if you keep fighting against it, you have a chance to win. And for example, in our project, there's two parts, the mental and the psychological one. And we try that the children solve their problems by themselves where it's possible, and not to be running away from the problem, because it's important to face it head on.
Wonderful. Now, just a reminder to those of you in the audience, both here in the room and also online, that you can ask questions. So if you're online, go to the Q&A function in the app. And in the audience, in just a moment, I'm going to ask if you've got a question, you'll raise your hand. So just a reminder if you have a question for Martina. But in the meantime, I'm wondering, how did being a kickboxer get you involved with NATO?
Okay, so first I would like to say that I'm the biggest dreamer, how I said, and when I was younger, I always wanted to change the world. And I think we don't need magic to change the world, because we carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. So we have the power to imagine better. How I said, I always have new goals, and I try to do always my best. My first contact with NATO was, I think, in 2017, and I was a student of international studies. I was interested in the defense. Because the activities of NATO made me sense, like collective defense, not to provoke conflict, but solve the conflicts, managing crises around the world, fighting against terrorism, and much more. And I wanted to be a part of it. And in the same year, I became an instructor of Armed Special Forces and got the opportunity to join. And nowadays, I said I'm proud of myself because I'm one girl there. And it's pretty strange, and it's crazy how fast time flies. and how things progress. And nowadays, I am the part of, how I said, the CASOT, the King Abdullah Special Operations Training Center in Jordan, in Oman. And together with my brother, we prepare the soldiers, we train how to communicate with your enemies, how to fight, and teach, for example, self-defense and martial arts as well. Then, because the center specializes in counterterrorism, fight against terrorism, and special operations, we try to learn the soldiers to teamwork, communications, and many others. And sometimes it's very funny because the people there see the girl like me in white dresses and they are a little bit surprised. So, wait, what is it? When we come to the workshop, they are so surprised. So it's sometimes very funny. But that's it. And otherwise, for example, I'm an instructor of NATO multinational group in Slovakia, which has been present in Slovakia since April 2022 in response to the Russian aggression in the Ukraine. We teach, for example, combat development, for example, hand-to-hand trainings, because hand-to-hand fighting is a special system for the armed forces, how I said. And we try to teach collaboration, then the communication, teamwork, and many other things. And maybe there is more, but it's, I think, hard to describe, much more than explain. And I think that the most important in life is the trust. And I think that it can take years to earn, just a matter of seconds to lose. So I always try to do my best and be the best instructor you can imagine.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Martina.
Thank you too.
I think let's see if we've got any questions from the audience. We do. I see one right in the back there. Let's go to in the green top. Yeah, if you come to the microphone in the middle, then we'll be able to hear you. That would be brilliant. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for this fascinating talk. My name is Eleanor Manley, and I'm the co-founder of a company that helps organizations prevent and resolve bullying, discrimination, and harassment. So it's something that's very close to my heart. And I would love to know from your experience if you think that technology can actually play a role in preventing or tackling bullying. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
I think that we can use, for example, some technologies for special apps. It's possible, but what I like the most is the contact and communication with the people. So I think maybe it's the best instead of these communications.
Yeah, sometimes technology puts a bit of distance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. So I think that the best contact is in person, because you know the emotions and the behavior of the people, how the people behave. So I think it's the best. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think I saw another question a moment ago. Yes, right here in the front row. Please go over to the microphone if you don't mind. Yeah. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for the time and for sharing. My question is more around mental health, because when we speak about bullying, mental health is always there. And sometimes there are consequences that are irreparable, let's say. So you're sharing your story. My question is, personally, can you share some tips for taking care of mental health when these kind of bullying of all sizes are coming in? I don't know, probably something about a special network, or how do you used to deal with it because you faced this situation?
I have to say that we have so many cases, because we work with the young people and the children as well. And for example, I have started to do this project. It's called Bullying to the Cage. First, I would like to explain why it's called Bullying to the Cage, because my name is Ptáčková, and in our language, it's called like a bird. So it's like we grab the bullying and we put it into the cage. So why maybe this strange title, the strange name of our project. And I think that the biggest tip is to stand up and do something against it, because the fear is the worst enemy, I think. And when we don't react, we will lose. So when we have workshops and projects for the young people in the Czech Republic and in the world, we try to teach them that it's the best to solve it on their own, not to running away from the problem. Because, for example, they have parents, and the parents would like to solve that instead of the children, and I think it's the worst, because the children grow up and then they have another problems, and it's all the time the same. So say something, and I think that everything will be fine one day.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Martina. Another question I have is related to something that I mentioned before around bullying being something that actually can happen on a much bigger scale. We often think about bullying as something that happens to individuals on a personal level, but it can happen on a bigger scale. So institutions and countries, for instance, can be bullies. I'm wondering, how do you feel when you see countries bullying other countries?
Okay, so firstly, I'd like to say that it's okay to be worried about wars and conflicts. And maybe I feel powerless, maybe I feel the fear of the future and anger that has happened. Maybe the shame and guilt and incomprehension, helplessness. And I always, when, for example, there is a conflict, bullying breaks out, I want to learn more. And sometimes I and many other people label the things that the bad people, bad states, but I think it's the worst, because we should take like this situation like the opportunity to encourage compassion. But I feel very bad about that's it.
Brilliant.
And I think that, it makes me sad, and I'm always thinking about the things. But I think it teaches me and my friends, and I try to create a sense of safety and find ways to cope together with uncertainty and be hopeful for the peace we have.
Thank you so much, Martina.
Thank you so much. Too.
So as a last thought, a parting thought for us, perhaps. You've already given us a couple of pieces of advice. If folks in the audience here in the room or online want to get involved in any of the initiatives that you've mentioned or to follow you, how can they do that?
Okay, so if we have some other questions and so on, we have our special websites with my brother. It's called ptáčkově.org. Maybe I can show you on the.
No, I don't know where the PowerPoint is.
But you can yes, this one, or they can
brilliant.
email or what you want, but. And I will be happy if we can stay in touch. And if you have some more questions, just write me and I will write back.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
So much, Martina. Please, everybody, let's give Martina a huge round of applause. Thank you.